Hello, this is Professor Shannon Gracie. We are working out of Blitzer's Introductory and Intermediate Algebra text for college students, and today we'll be covering the circle. So let's warm up. The first warm up is solve this equation by completing the square. Completing the square is a skill we'll be using in this section. All right, so let's see how you did. So if you recall, with completing the square, you want to have the variable terms on one side and the constants on the other. So we'll go ahead and we'll subtract 2 from both sides. And then we'll have 2x squared minus 6x is equal to 1. Now, to complete the square, you take half of the, let's see, do it in red. You're going to add half of the middle term. Oh, wait. The next thing we need to do is get a coefficient of 1. So if we divide both sides by 2, remember you have to divide each term by 2 on this side. You're going to get x squared minus 3x equals 1/2. So now we need to add negative 3/2 squared to both sides. Remember, you take half of the middle term and you add the square. And what you end up with is you end up with x minus 3/2, the quantity squared on the left. And on the right side, we'll have 1/2 plus 9/4. So the common denominator is going to be 4. So if I multiply that 1/2 by 2 over 2, then I'll get 2/4 plus 9/4 is 11/4. And then we'll have, using the square root property, we will have x minus 3/2 is equal to plus or minus root 11 over 2. And then that will give us an end result of x is equal to 3/2 plus or minus root 11 over 2. So you get two solutions, 3/2 minus root 11 over 2 and 3/2 plus root 11 over 2. Okay, so next up, identify the vertex of the quadratic function. F of x is negative quantity x plus 4 squared plus 1. So remember the general form, or I forgot what this author had called it, but the format that's in is this form, a times x minus h, the quantity squared, plus k. So what we want to do is identify what we have. So if we write it exactly in that format, we would have negative x minus negative 4, the quantity squared, plus 1. So h is equal to negative 4 and k is equal to 1. So the vertex is at the ordered pair, negative 4, 1. All right, so moving on to the start of the lesson. A circle is the set of all points in a plane that are equidistant from a set point called the center. The fixed distance from the circle's center to any point on the circle is called the radius. Okay, so I've got a picture of a circle here, So if this is, x and y, we would have in the middle here, wherever that may be, probably about here. Does that look about right? So this would be our center. So that's the center, HK. All right. And then the radius is, you can draw it really anywhere. So this right here is our radius r, that distance. And if you take a look at what we have going on there, it's really just sort of a distance formula problem. So if you think about it, if you think about the distance squared is equal to x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Well, the distance d is the radius squared, and that's equal to, I've got just some random ordered pair on the circle at xy, and the center is at hk. So if I say x minus h, the quantity squared, plus y minus k, the quantity squared, I will have my standard form of the equation of a circle. All right? So the standard form of the equation of a circle with center hk and radius r is x minus h, the quantity squared, plus y minus k, the quantity squared, is equal to r squared. So let's check it out. We've been given, look at the formula above, the center is 0, 0. So h is 0 and k is 0. So this would give us x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared is 8 squared. So h is 0 and k is 0. And then r, is the constant being squared. So this one, since it's x minus 0, that would just give us x squared plus y squared equals 64. Okay, so now this guy, we've got different information. So we have x minus, 1 squared plus y minus negative 6 squared equals root 2 squared. So k was negative 6 and h was 1. And so we would have x minus 1 squared plus y plus 6 squared will equal to 2. And we're all done. How are we doing so far? Awesome. All right. Now the next one, center is at negative 1/2, 0, and the radius is 10. So let's see what we have. We'll have x minus negative 1/2 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals 10 squared. So let's see. Let's highlight what we have. So this was our h. This was our k. So cleaning it up a little bit, we would get x plus 1/2 squared plus y squared equals 100. All right. So now we come to the general form of the equation of a circle. So again, my apologies. We have the general form of the equation of a circle. Don't worry about these. This was a copy and paste error. So the general form will be equal to x squared plus y squared plus d times x, some coefficient times x, plus e times y plus f is equal to 0. So this is where completing the square might come into play. Let's just take a look at what we have. It's really easy to graph a circle. It's pretty awesome. So here, this is already in that standard form, which is the form you really need to be able to graph. So let's just write this to match it, the standard form. So do you see this would be x minus 0 squared plus y minus 1 squared is equal to 4 squared. So the center is where? Good, the center is at the ordered pair, 0, 1, and what is the radius? Great, the radius is 4. Okay, so they asked for this stuff. And then we have x and y. We'll just do a regular negative 10 to 10 scale on each axis. So this is how you graph a circle. You graph the center point first. So that was at 0, 1. So this is the center. Then it's so easy. You just go 4 up from the center. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 to the right of the center. 4 down from the center. And 4 left of the center. And that gives you the framework to draw your circle. Oops. We good? All right. So next up, this one's a little bit more mean, right? We have to do some completing the square stuff before we can draw this picture. So this is the trick. We're gonna move these terms around a little, and we're gonna put the constant term on the other side. So that's gonna give us x squared plus 8x. I'm putting the x's together. Leave a space. And then say plus y squared plus 4y. Leave another space. And then when we move the 16 over, we're going to have negative 16. Now what we're going to do is we're going to complete each of these squares. So half of the middle term for the x is positive 4. So we're going to add 4 squared. So we have to do the same thing over here. And half of 4 is 2. So we're going to be adding 2 squared. So we have to add 2 squared to the other side. So that's going to give us, for the x term, we'll have x plus 4 the quantity squared. And then this square we completed was y plus 2 the quantity squared. And that's going to equal to positive 4, because negative 16 plus 16 zeroes out, and 2 squared is 4. So now this is the standard form, but let's get it to be a little bit more informative. So what have we found? We found that the center is where? Good, the center, oh, I'm sorry, I put negative 2 here instead of negative 4, my bad. The center is at negative 4, comma, negative 2. And what's our radius? Perfect, our radius is 2. So, graphing, we can, we can just use our regular scale. It'll be a little circle, but that's okay. So, our center is at negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left, and then down 2. That's the center. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to go, perfect, up 2, right 2, down 2, and left 2. And that will be my little circle. And we're done. All right, so just a couple more examples of these and we'll be finished for today. So our next example, we do need to complete the square again. So, but only for which one? Good, only for the x. So let's see, we have x squared minus 6x. Leave a space, put y plus y squared, and then add 7 to both sides. So to complete this square, we'll have plus negative 3 squared. So plus negative 3 squared. So this will give us x minus 3, the quantity squared, plus y minus 0, the quantity squared, is equal to, actually, I'll do that in the next line, plus y squared is equal to 16. So if I want to write that where I can, see the exact same form so I can find my h and my k, you can do this. And 16 is the same as 4 squared. So our center is good at 3, 0. And the radius is 4. So x and y, put in our scale. And our center is at 3, 0. So 1, 2, 3, 0. Radius of 4. So up 4. To the right 4. Down 4. And left 4. And then you just draw in your circle. Okay, good stuff. All right, so what about this next one? Yeah, this one's kind of so easy, it's hard, right? If I just add 49 to both sides, do you see that the general format, or the standard form rather, would be x minus 0 quantity squared plus y minus 0, the quantity squared, is 7 squared. So where's my center? Very good, it's at the origin, 0, 0, and my radius is perfect, 7. So here we are. We've got our x and our y. Can do the regular negative 10 to 10 scale. And here we go. Center's at the origin. And then I'm going to go 7 up. Sorry, my kitty wants attention here. 7 to the right, 7 down, and 7 to the left. And then we just carefully make our circle. I don't know if I like that one very much. Ay, ay, ay. My hand must be getting tired. This is movie number 4 today. Let's see. I'm not making a very nice circle here. That's definitely bad. All right, this one's a little further out, so let's see what we have going on. Okay, that's good enough. All right. Ah, it's bugging me. One more try. One more try. So let's see. All right, that'll do. All right, guys, have a great day. I think this teacher needs a happy hour. Don't forget to do some of your problem sets so that you cement the knowledge in your mind, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.